The most terrifying thing you may ever discover is that you are not just one person, you are two. The reason you feel tired, broke, or anxious is that these two versions of you are locked in a constant battle for control of your mind. You may think you're fighting the world. You may believe the economy, the algorithm, your boss, or your past relationships are the reason you're stuck. But often that's not the full truth. Even if every external obstacle disappeared, if you suddenly had the money, the time, and the resources, you might still find a way to sabotage it. Because sometimes the real enemy isn't outside, it's inside. There's a version of you that wants to build something great, but there's also a version that wants to tear it all down just to feel something. You've probably felt this before. The moment you decide to change your life, another voice appears. It whispers excuses. It convinces you to sleep in, skip the workout, send a message you shouldn't send, or abandon your progress right when you're close to a breakthrough. This isn't just laziness or a lack of motivation. It's an internal conflict. Throughout history, people have described this inner struggle in different ways. Some called it temptation or a demon. Stephen Pressfield called it resistance. Carl Jung described it as the shadow. Whatever name you give it, the idea is similar. There are parts of your mind pulling you in opposite directions. To understand this conflict, it helps to look at the classic model proposed by Sigmund Freud. Freud suggested that our psyche operates through three forces: the ID, the ego, and the superego. In simpler terms, imagine three voices inside you. First, there is the beast, your biological instincts. This is the ID. It is ancient and driven by survival. It cares about comfort, pleasure, and conserving energy. It urges you to eat the sugar, avoid discomfort, and choose the easiest path. Second, there is the judge, the superego. This voice carries the expectations of parents, teachers, and society. It criticizes you when you fall short and pushes you toward perfection. But taken too far, it can become harsh and paralyzing, making you feel like nothing you do is ever good enough. Between them is the ego, your conscious self. This is the part of you trying to navigate between instinct and judgment. When you feel mentally exhausted, it may not be because you worked hard, but because you spent the day negotiating with these internal voices. You promise yourself, just 5 more minutes. I'll start on Monday. Maybe I'm not ready yet. This constant negotiation drains energy. A powerful shift happens when you realize something important. You are not the voices themselves. You are the one hearing them. When an urge to quit appears, it is often just a passing wave of emotion or sensation. If you observe it, instead of immediately obeying it, its power weakens. Watch the urge rise. Name it, then keep moving forward anyway. Another uncomfortable truth is that people sometimes remain stuck because the familiar, even when painful, feels safe. Growth brings uncertainty and responsibility, and that can be frightening. Psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl wrote that the last human freedom is the ability to choose one's attitude in any situation. Yet many people avoid that freedom because accepting responsibility means acknowledging that change is in their hands. This can lead to patterns of self-sabotage. Progress begins, but something pulls you back to old habits. Psychologist and author Hendricks described this as an upper limit problem. Imagine your comfort zone as a thermostat. If life begins to improve beyond what you subconsciously believe you deserve, your mind tries to restore the familiar setting. You may create conflict, overspend, procrastinate, or disrupt progress simply to return to what feels normal. Breaking that pattern requires learning to tolerate the discomfort of growth. Another concept comes from the book, The War of Art, where Pressfield explains resistance, the invisible force that pushes back hardest against the work that matters most. The more meaningful the task, writing a book, building a business, repairing a relationship, the stronger the resistance often feels. Instead of seeing fear as a signal to retreat, it can sometimes be a signal that the action matters. Endurance athlete David Goggins often speaks about pushing beyond perceived limits. He suggests that the mind frequently stops far earlier than the body truly needs to. What feels like the absolute limit is often just the brain trying to protect you from discomfort. Psychologist Carl Jung also introduced the idea of integrating the shadow of the hidden or rejected parts of our personality. Rather than pretending these traits don't exist, acknowledging them can allow you to redirect their energy into productive action. Anger can become determination. Ambition can become discipline. Drive can become creativity. Philosophers have long emphasized personal responsibility as well. Roman emperor and Stoic thinker Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that peace comes from focusing on what lies within our control, our actions and decisions. Similarly, philosopher Seneca reminded us that life is not necessarily short. We simply waste much of it. Recognizing the value of time can sharpen priorities. When you remember that your days are limited, procrastination and fear of judgment lose some of their power. Some people use a practical technique, creating an alter ego or performance identity. Public figures have used similar ideas. Artists, athletes, and performers who step into a focused version of themselves when it's time to work or compete. This doesn't mean becoming someone else. It's simply a way of consciously stepping into the traits you want to embody. Over time, identity shifts. You stop saying, "I'm trying to do this," and begin saying, "This is who I am." In the end, the struggle between comfort and growth never fully disappears. Every morning presents the same decision: which voice will lead today? Self-mastery is not a single victory. It is a practice repeated daily. And the person who learns to guide their own impulses, rather than being ruled by them, often discovers that many external challenges become far easier to face.